If it was not crystal clear already, we now have a Sweet Baby Inc. employee on record admitting that one of his goals and the company's goals is burning the games industry to the ground. Yes, they actually admit this in a presentation that they gave at the was it Game Developers of Color conference, I think back in 2022. Before we get to this, I'd like to ask you, please hit that subscribe button, hit that bell for notifications so you don't miss any of our future videos here at the Trent Report. Wrote this up over at thatparkplace.com. And the Sweet Baby Inc. employee we are discussing is named Camerin Wild, who claims to be non-binary. I'm going to be referring to him as him. Looks like a dude to me. But in our presentation titled How to Get Away with Murder, Subverting Genre Expectations at the Game Developers of Color Expo, discovered by YouTuber Kirsch. Shout out to Kirsch. Did really good job on this. Has an entire EFAP of this video. But Wild introduced himself saying he is a narrative designer and sensitivity reader with a company called Sweet Baby Inc. Wild, who according to Moby Games worked on Tales of Kenzera, Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, Alan Wake 2, The Crew, Motorfest, Kingdom 80s, and God of War Ragnarok, then declared, "The stories we tell each other are way more than entertainment. They're how we create debate and preserve our collective values and beliefs. And we can and should make better, more expansive, more representational content." I actually agree with him there that they are how we preserve our collective values and beliefs. However, clearly this guy wants to change what those values and beliefs are. If you want to watch this presentation, you can. I will have the link in the description below. But very quickly into the presentation, there is a slide titled, "Cool, so why am I here?" One of the bullet points says this: burning the games industry to the ground. It's literally the third bullet point right there. You can read it on the screen. We want cooler stories, a safer world, burning the games industry to the ground. This is what his goal is, and this is what Sweet Baby Inc.'s goal is, because he is literally representing Sweet Baby Inc. during this appearance. You can see the company's logo right there on fire. I don't think Hypnotic can make one better than that. Wow. They were using it before we were. In the next slide, I mean, I feel like I'm just kind of trying to pass this by. I mean, this is what these people want to do. They want to burn the games industry to the ground. Like, they are admitting this. And video game developers, the companies, are hiring these people when they say stuff like this. I mean, they're trying to self-immolate. I mean, you can't make this stuff up anymore. You're hiring people that literally want to destroy you, and you expect not to be destroyed? I mean, you kind of get what's coming to you. And we're seeing that. Anyone who hires these people is getting destroyed. Look at these games that the guy worked on. Let's go back up to this games list here. Alan Wake 2 failed to make a profit yet. Tales of Kenzera, Surgeon Studios is laying people off. The guy who runs Surgeon Studios literally was Sucre Bebe, literally was part of Sweet Baby. Suicide Squad, Kill the Justice League, $200 million impairment charge from Warner Brothers Discovery. God of War Ragnarok is seeing a massive decline in its player counts compared to the 2018 version of God of War over on Steam. Like, less than half. I mean, I'm pretty sure Sweet Baby has something to do with it. Now, obviously, PlayStation Network issues, and there's some other things happening with that, but I do think that Sweet Baby does have a big impact on this. Over nearly 500,000 people on Cabrutus Rambo, Sweet Baby Inc. detected Steam curator list. That game's on the list. If you don't think that doesn't have an effect, it does. I mean, all of these Sweet Baby Inc. games are dying on the vine. They are dying. And God of War Ragnarok just happened to get out there before a lot of this happened. And we're seeing, though, on Steam that less than half of God of War. So I definitely think it's playing an effect. Crew, Motorfest, Kingdom 80s. I don't even know what that one is. I'd have to look at that. Seems like a very small, tiny game. But at least over half of these games are not doing well. Not doing well. Massive financial failures. So let's move on here in another slide. I mean, that's obviously the worst part of this entire presentation, but there's a whole lot more. And none of this should really surprise you if you've watched any of my videos about Kim Bel-Air and other Sweet Baby Inc. employees. But in the next slide titled, "So Why Am I Still Here?" one of the bullet points states, to prove that space where whiteness doesn't have to live is where some of the best stories are told. So obviously taking after Kim Bel-Air, who thinks that gamers are just a bunch of white picky babies. Taking after that, I mean, this whole company seems to be all about race, and they seem to be against people that happen to have white skin. And Wild explained this, a lot of us who are really fighting for more inclusive games and storytelling don't have a choice when it comes to discomfort. A lot of us who are just existing don't have a choice. Doesn't make any sense. Anyways, he goes on and says, which makes this really hard often. But recently I started realizing that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live, is where some of the best stories are told, and it's where genre storytelling lives. So, I mean, I go, it's hard to even make of that what he's even talking about. I started realizing that discomfort, or the place where whiteness doesn't have to live. So what does that even mean? What does that even mean? I have no clue what he's even talking about here. What is whiteness? I don't know what that is. What does that mean? But it's clearly has something to do with someone's skin color. And if you look a certain way, you think a certain way, or something like that. But maybe that's what he's talking about. But again, I really don't know what he's talking about, but it's clearly racially charged. Later in the presentation, he explains why Blazing Saddles is his favorite film. And he says, the reason why I love it, beyond some truly Mel Brooksian slapstick humor and fart jokes, Blazing Saddles is extremely aware of social inequity and finds its humor in that darkness, which means I can laugh in a way that is cathartic. It's a movie that isn't making jokes about me, but for me, and I think that's really awesome. Because you can just tell in the text, but it's also a fact that Brooks worked with black writers to make sure the jokes came at the expense of whiteness and chipped away in an absurd social hierarchy. It's deliberately and unexpectedly a narrative that contributes to the liberation of people like me. It isn't respectful, it's offensive, but yeah, it offends the right people, which is to me the point of truly inclusive, intentional genre work. So there you go. He likes the movie because it attacks what he views as political opponents or ideological opponents. That is the whole reason why he likes the movie. That seems to be the only reason why he likes the movie. And if this is why he likes a movie, you can only imagine the kind of advice he's giving to video game developers on how to make their games. One need to look no further than Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League. I mean, you can't make this stuff up. I mean, these people literally just hate people that are white. They hate them. He's sick. These are sick people, and they say it. They say it in public. They say it at these digital expos. And they get hired by these developers. So what does that tell us about these developers? What does it tell us about these developers? What's going on at Warner Brothers? What's going on over there? Well, we know what's going on over there. They have a whole DEI department that's literally trying to rid people of anyone that opposes their woke racism. It's very well documented. So there was one nugget of truth in this presentation, which I think he didn't realize what he said, but he says, ultimately, if you're telling a story that misses its audience, that doesn't ring true or fails to cut in the right direction. The problem isn't that it's just insensitive. The problem is it's bad. So I think obviously he's talking about identity politics here and pandering to certain demographics. But if you take it on face value, outside of all of his lunacy context that he provides, he does have a little bit of truth here. If the story misses its audience, it's not just, it's bad. Concord is ring a bell. Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League completely missed its audience. Tales of Kinzera Zhao missed its audience. What was the other one? Oh, Alan Wake 2 missed its audience. So you can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up. He then basically turns the entire presentation into him just railing on Quentin Tarantino and Django Unchained. He says that Django Unchained is an example of a movie missing its audience, and that's why it makes it bad. And he says this while explaining his point, or while explaining his point, he says this. So a context-free version of art is supposed to make people uncomfortable. As an auteur, Quentin Tarantino feels like someone who grasps after edginess when they don't really have any human tragedy to explore the depths of. They don't understand that growth comes from trauma, sure, but it also comes from joy. He holds a no pain, no gain mentality that I think is unshakably rooted in white supremacist patriarchal values. So he literally just hates Quentin Tarantino because he's white, and he hates Django Unchained because Quentin Tarantino looks like a white person. And he made that movie. Like, you can't make this stuff up. That's like the juxt of this guy's entire criticism of Django Unchained. As I said, from there, he just basically turns it into a review of Django Unchained, and he contrasts and compares it with Blazing Saddles. And he says, I do think Tarantino's work does need to be critiqued out of existence. And then he specifically has to be addressed in any discussion of that work. Because Tarantino is capable of genre filmmaking, but the genre he's chosen with Django is blaxploitation. And why I have my own pet theories. Personally, I think it's the same thing we see with any non-black creator who thinks that black people are cool, but can't really examine the covetous nature of their feelings or their own role in black stories. People who in life met a black person that they wanted to follow, F, or befriend and never resolved it. The equivalent of a little boy pulling a little girl's pigtails, but it's a white filmmaker in black paint. So this dude just doesn't like anyone but black people writing black stories. And this is the whole thing we've seen in the past. If you don't fit this identity, you can't write about that identity. It's just utterly ridiculous. It's absolutely ironic, too, given the fact that he's talking about Blazing Saddles and how Mel Brooks is able to do all this stuff. And clearly Mel Brooks isn't black, but I guess he excuses that because obviously earlier in the video, he said that he did consult with black writers in order to be able to do that. And regardless, Mel Brooks is pushing the narrative that he wants to push, or at least that he's seeing in Blazing Saddles. So maybe he gets that excuse too, because it's all about the revolution. It's all about the power and pushing society culture in a certain way. And anything that opposes it is obviously wrong and evil. That is how people like this view the world. And he's clearly explaining it in this video. He spends 10 minutes reviewing Django Unchained. And then he says this, arguably, Django Unchained should never have existed because the truth is some stories are not yours to tell. Unless you're willing to step out of the limelight as a white person, you aren't equipped to tell a story about a black experience. However, if you are willing to put your own ego aside, well, you can go ahead and make Blazing Saddles something great. So there you go. It's how he explains it. He then wrapped up the entire presentation by sharing that, quote, good genre starts with representation on the creative team. It's all about identity politics first. If you don't have the identity politics first, you can't make good genre. So you better hire Sweet Baby Inc. because we're the ones who can give you that representation in order for you to write good genre. And if you don't, I'm going to sick Kim Belair on you, and she'll have her social media mobs terrify you into hiring us. I just can't make this stuff up. The foundations of the project must be solid. Those foundations obviously being that representation and identity politics. He then claims that the identity of your characters, specifically your heroes, must define their challenges in narrative, but it must also define their triumph. So again, all about the identity of the characters. He then says that good genre must consider its relationship to power. So there you go. That's what these people all care about. We have their goal now. We have this admission that Sweet Baby Inc., their goal is literally to burn the games industry to the ground. That is what this company wants to do. That is what their employees want to do. And we see the fruits of that. They are actively doing that. This is what they are doing, and we can see it happening because that's exactly what they are doing. They are burning the games industry to the ground with their insertion of divisive woke ideology into these video games, whether it is in the content of the video games, the narrative, the story, etc., whether it is in the design or whether it is in the people that they are trying to get these companies to hire that believe in all of this stuff so that they can then insert it into the games. And then obviously there's the whole expertise issue as well. Are these individuals really qualified to do any of this stuff, or are they not? I think they're, if we look at what Ubisoft just put out with Star Wars Outlaws, clearly they've lost a lot of talent given that bug-ridden mess of a game. But let me know what you guys make of this. Let me know in the comments below. Remember to always be charitable, especially to each other, but to always speak the truth. And remember, we should always pray for our enemies as well. We must oppose them, but we should pray for them too.